Hi everyone, I hope you guys are all having a great day. Today I'm just going to do a discussion video about TBRs. So the other day I watched a video by The Book Olive, and she discussed the pros and cons of TBRs, and she is very, very pro TBR. I think you can tell in her personality, she's, even if you've watched her channel at all, she uses a TBR and she sticks to a TBR, and she's very organized in her thought process. And I suspect in most of the things that she does, which is a super admirable quality. And so I really appreciated all of the different pros and cons that she voiced regarding TBRs, and it got me thinking about how I handle the books that I'm going to read next, and just the different things in TBRs that you see on YouTube. And that we enjoy in the booktube community. So I'm going to quickly go over Olive's pros that I thought were the most interesting. So one of the things that she mentioned is that when you have a goal to read a certain number of books, or to broaden your reading, or to read a certain kind of book throughout the year, like if you're focused on reading women, or diversifying the authors from who write the books that you read, or trying to read a book from every continent or different countries and things like that, a TBR would certainly help ensure that you meet those goals. Another interesting aspect of TBRs that Olive mentioned is that she enjoys watching TBRs because even though the booktuber has not read any of those books yet, they are, it's a very exciting time for the person who has just hauled all those books, or who is planning out their reading, and it's a great way for you to discover new authors and new books. So I thought that those were three really good points, especially for making TBR videos, because I don't typically watch them, and I don't typically make them either, for reasons that I'll talk about in just a second. But the three pros that she suggested were very interesting, especially for making a TBR video and watching other people's TBR videos, because it gives you an opportunity to find new books to enjoy. I thought those were very interesting. I will also say, for myself, one of the few times I have enjoyed making TBRs is when I travel. I love picking books for when I am going on an airplane or a road trip or something like that. There's something very satisfying about picking 3 or 4 books and putting them in my suitcase, and knowing that I'm going to get to read them while I'm on the plane, or waiting for a plane, or sitting on the beach, or wherever I happen to be going. The beach is always where I want to be going, but I don't go as often as I would like because Alaska. So what are you going to do? I was going to go to a beach for camping on Memorial Day weekend, but it was too crowded because it was only like this big. Next time. Anyway, sorry. So travel TBRs have been my favorite TBRs to film. And then I have also occasionally filmed or created a TBR for myself if I am participating in read-alongs, or in a book club or of some sort. I did something like that in January because for some reason the month of January my reading was incredibly structured because I was participating in a couple of read-alongs, which I really enjoyed. So that worked out well. But I typically don't use TBRs because I feel trapped. I feel like I really only read 4 books a month anyway, and if I have those 4 books already picked out, I feel like I'm not gonna have any fun. I really do feel like reading is supposed to be enjoyable. For me, at its core, I read because I enjoy it. That's my basic reason for reading. There are so many other reasons, and so many other perks to reading, but most of the time if I pick up a book, it's because I think I'm gonna like it. Often, and as a challenge to myself, I will pick up books that are just classics, or I know that they have excellent literary merit, and sort of help expand my thinking and experiences in that way. That happens all the time, but even in those books, I still expect to enjoy them, which is, like I said, that's my overall goal for reading. So that's why I typically don't make a TBR video or even create a TBR for myself. I'm a moody reader. If I finish a book, I go up the steps and I pick a new one. One of the comments that Olive made is that having a TBR really eliminates that time that you would take picking a new book. But I don't waste a lot of time doing that. It takes me 5 minutes, and so I thought that was an interesting point that she made, but it's not typically an issue for me, because I have the shelf, I know what I haven't read yet, I go and find something. The downside to something like that, though, is that those heavier books sometimes don't get read. I've had Go Tell on a Mountain on my shelf for a year, and I know that I'm going to read it this summer, but I just haven't read it yet. Or, War and Peace. Okay, I'm never going to read War and Peace in a month, so I could never put it on a monthly TBR, but I do want to read it, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. However, all that being said, I do think that there is one situation in my life where a TBR would help me quite a bit. And that is in my goal to read more nonfiction, which, interestingly enough, is something that Olive at A Book Olive reads extensively. I would say more than 50% of what she reads is nonfiction, and I know that previously in her reading experience she was almost predominantly nonfiction and had to broaden her horizons by reading fiction, so she's definitely a whole different animal than I am. But I think that a TBR would be an excellent way to help me fulfill that goal of reading more nonfiction. Specifically, I think I wanted to read 12 this year. So I have a couple of things. Number one, I want to know, how do you handle TBRs? Number two, I want to know, what are your favorite nonfiction books? Because I need to add some to my TBR. Because this is what I have on my nonfiction TBR right now. I'm in the middle of listening to The Plantagenets by Dan Jones, which is like a popular history, but I enjoy popular histories. And then I also want to read The War of the Roses by Dan Jones. I have a book called The Brontes, A Life in Letters, which my sister-in-law purchased for me a couple of Christmases ago, and so I want to read that this year. I have a biography on George Washington, which I would like to read. There's a biography on Jane Austen that I think sounds interesting. It's called Jane Austen, A Life. I also would like to read the first book in a series about Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement called Parting the Waters. It's a 3-book series, and I would like to at least start that this year. And then I would like to read a book called Aspects of a Novel by E.M. Forster, which is about the novel. Yeah, wouldn't make sense, right? So those are the few books that I have on my nonfiction TBR. Looking at my shelf right now, I also see In the Heart of the Sea, which is supposed to be the true-ish story of Moby Dick, I think. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making that up. But anyway, it's about ships and sailors and something like that, and some natural disaster, or some disaster. So I would like to read that too, but I saw the movie, and so I'm not so sure. But anyway, so I would love to know your thoughts on TBRs and your recommendations for nonfiction. I will just be honest and say I get really bored with long nonfiction, and I really prefer something that's very readable. I was a history major in college. I have had enough of academic writing. I think it's really boring and it's just going to put me to sleep. And so I prefer more very readable nonfiction, unless you think it's really fantastic and needs to be read, and then you can put it in the comments below. Okay, and I will take your advice. But anyway, I'd love to know what you think about TBRs, and I hope you all have a great day. Thanks, bye.